Want to welcome now political analyst and builder movement partner Stephen Olikara. Stephen, Senator Graham was a fixture in South Carolina and in Washington. Some would even say, across the world for decades. What was your immediate reaction to this very shocking passing?
Well, first and foremost, my condolences go to Senator Graham's family. This was extremely unexpected. And I think the part of his journey that I connect with most, that I think people, Americans across the aisle, Democrat or Republican or independent, can connect with, is his story, a truly American story. This is someone who grew up in the back room of a bar in South Carolina, shared a bathroom with patrons at that bar, and rose to be one of the most influential and consequential U.S. senators in American history. And that's something that, even if you disagree with his politics, what an incredible story that is. And the second thing, and Carrie Lake was just talking about this, is his belief in politics to work across difference and across the aisle. I personally first first learned his style of politics when he was working on a bipartisan climate bill almost more than 15 years ago, working with Joe Lieberman and John Kerry. And, you fast forward a decade, he's working with Cory Booker on a bipartisan criminal justice reform, the First Step Act, which passed. A few years later, he's working with Senator Chris Murphy on a bipartisan gun reform bill that passed. And so I think this is an important lesson, actually, for a lot of the senators and members of Congress, that at the end of the day, I think what Americans are really going to remember you for is not the posturing, it's about the governing. And I hope this moment allows that type of reflection for our U.S. senators.
Yeah, so I was just saying that a moment ago, those lessons, you hope that they carry forward. And you could imagine that if there's anything the late senator would have wanted, it would have been in part that. Graham held powerful positions, even coming from those humble beginnings that you mentioned a moment ago. He was the chairman of the Senate Budget Committee and former chairman of the Judiciary Committee. President Trump considered him one of his biggest allies in Congress, saying this today.
He was such an advocate. He was, if he wanted to get something, and, he had a unique ability. He was able to deal with Democrats and Republicans. If I had a problem, a real problem, I wouldn't often ask. But if I had a problem with a Democrat, he could work it out. He was a great politician, actually.
Yeah, there's no doubt there are big shoes to fill here. And I know while we're all still mourning the death of the late senator, there are some, especially those in South Carolina, wondering who comes next, who fills those shoes. As a Republican lawmaker, who can work efficiently with Democrats and kind of hold to his legacy, who does that here?
Well, it's hard to fill those shoes because seniority is a huge factor on Capitol Hill, and he obviously brought that. I mean, he first came to Washington in the early 90s, was elected to the U.S. Senate in 2002, so he brings an incredible amount of institutional knowledge that he could utilize for the people of South Carolina. Now you look at what's going to happen next. There will be a special primary election, and the governor is going to appoint someone to fulfill the rest of his term. It appears the lieutenant governor in South Carolina may be jumping in, along with the name that probably a number of viewers are familiar with, Nancy Mace, who just recently ran for governor. So my sense is there'll be a lot of people who jump in, but it's almost impossible to immediately fill the kind of relationships and knowledge and institutional seniority that he had in the U.S. Senate.
What would you say is Senator Graham's legacy on Capitol Hill after more than 2 decades, serving in the Senate, but certainly a decade before that, he served in the House as well?
I think his legacy will come down to 2 things. One is a political survivor. This is someone who was able to adapt to our shifting politics. He was a Bush Republican and was evolved into a Trump Republican. And keep in mind, this is not a time in American political life where it's particularly popular to be an incumbent or a member of the political establishment. And he just won his Senate primary election in South Carolina handily. So I think one piece is this idea of being a political survivor. And I think the second is the style of politics that is about ultimately building relationships to get things done. I think his wit, his sense of humor is actually a really important piece to that. the belief that he could be disagreeing with you vehemently on one issue, but then that doesn't mean he might not work with you on a different issue. And I think for all of us as Americans, we need to hope that that is not a dying art form. For government and especially legislative bodies to work, you need to have a conversation. And he believed in that style of politics.
Yeah, certainly a major legacy. He's been called a giant on this show and big shoes to fill. Political analyst and Builder Movement partner Stephen Olikara, thank you so much.
Thanks for having me.
Of course. And as